Well, welcome to this video. It's our last video in the data unit, and we're looking at lines of best fit. Hopefully a concept you've heard before. Now we're going to look at it in a bit more detail. So we're going to start by looking at how we can make a line of best fit on Excel. Now it's described in page 311 on the textbook. I'm also going to go through it now on Excel. So you can follow through on the video and you can also look back at the textbook if you want to. So here we are in Excel. This is just the data that's in that exercise, in the explanation in the exercise book. We want to insert a graph, and you can see here we've got a range of students, and each one has a science mark and a maths mark they've received, and we want to graph this. So what we're going to do is you go to insert, and that will give you the option of inserting graphs. Now we want to select these two lines of the data. Now the student names don't actually matter to us, or the student letters. Now when you're inserting a graph or a chart, or display of data, you can click on that recommended charts thing. It will give you a few recommended ones. You can hit all charts and it will give you all of them. And you can click on them and you can look in more detail. For a scatter chart, we could click on that one. But we could also go to this little button here and we could hit scatter. And you can see there, now it's graphed our marks in science and mathematics. Now we want to add a line of best fit. And the way we do that is we right click on one of these points of data and we go add trend line. And now it'll bring up this box over here, and you can see it's added this dotted trend line all through there, and that's essentially our line of best fit. Now you would have to, in your head, extend that if you wanted to extrapolate values or interpolate to find values in here. Now you can also see trend lines don't necessarily have to be linear. This is pretty much all we're going to be dealing with at the moment, but you can see here you can get different shapes. So a line doesn't always follow a straight linear path, but it could be something else. Moving average is definitely not what we're looking for. So for this one, we're looking for linear. If you had your points going some shape like this, you may want to choose exponential, for example. You can also play around with different settings there. It's probably also worth knowing, if you don't know, that you can, when you've selected a chart, go and change all different sections there. So you can make them look different. Let's say we go for the horizontal value axis. I'm not sure what we're going to do here. We can change a whole range of things. So we can change the fill and what it looks like. We can add extra effects to it. We can change the alignment of that actual element. So you can see it's this element here. We could say if we align top, what's that going to do? Nothing. A lot of these, I guess, don't actually impact it. There you go. You can horizontal it. And you can also change things there. So if you didn't want different values there, for example, if we didn't want to go up by 5s, we wanted to go up by 1s, we could change that. Oh, and it hasn't. Oh, there we go. And it's updated. So it's probably worth, if you are making graphs anytime, to be going through these options and just checking out what you can change and making it look good. You can, I assume, also make your graph start more at this point if you're not interested in those values or these values. But that's quickly how you insert a trend line or a line of best fit. Just note, if you're ever asked what is the trend of the data, that's just asking you the same thing as we've been looking at for increasing and a strong correlation and things like that. Or a trend line is the same thing as a line of best fit. Thanks, girls. So now that we've looked at how we can make a line of best fit on Excel, we're going to look at how we can use that to predict different values. There's two terms we want to know here: interpolate and extrapolate. So interpolating is where we're taking an area we have values for. So you can see here, that's the area on this side. We have values up to about 7 and a bit hours in the bush. We can then go back and look at that line and we can interpolate and decide values. So we could assume that if we spend 3 hours in the bush, we're going to see 2 or 3 animals. If we're spending 6 hours in the bush, we're going to expect 5. Now, it's not necessarily completely exact, because you can see if we spend 6 hours, we have these 2 dots here. So we could see 5 or we could see 6. But it is going to give us a good idea. Extrapolating is when we're going on the other side and we're looking at values that we haven't actually got data for. So we've checked these small things where it's easy to look at, and now we can generalize it to a much larger situation. So we could continue that line onwards to say 100 and then work out how many mammals are we going to see in that time. Or we could even just look at 10. At 10, I'm going to see a certain number of animals. So that's interpolating and extrapolating. Make sure you understand what those words are and you've written down some definitions for them. Okay, so now we're going to look at how we can predict values using interpolation. So the question here we've been asked is, if you've spent 3 hours in the bush, how many mammals would you expect to see? So the same graph as before. If we spend 3 hours in, we would draw a line up from 3 and see where does it hit the line of best fit. And we can see it hits around this point here. Now, if we can then take a line out and see what on the vertical axis is our value going to be. Now, there could be 2 or 3. Now, you're probably not going to see 2.7 animals when you're out there. So we'll probably say the value is 3. So we're going to see about 3 animals if we're out there for 3 hours. Extrapolating, if we're out there for 10 hours, how many are we going to see? Again, we put a line up from 10 and then line across, and we're going to get close to 9. So right about 9. Now again, this may not be true. You may be in the bush for 10 hours and not see any, or you may see more. But based on the line of best fit, we can assume we're probably going to see around that many. Now it's your turn. Have a go. If you spent 6 hours in the bush, how many would you find? Work it out. Pause the video now and then work it out, and then you can fill in the answer. Okay, so we have 6 hours in the bush. We put the line up there, go across. We've got just over 4, so we're going to say we have 4. Or it's closer to 4 than 5. And your turn. If you spent 10 hours in the bush, how many mammals would you expect to see? Okay, and this time we're going to see about 7. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, continue on with the coursework. Thank you.